Hey everyone, this is the ShutInBakas. My name is Chris. So we're back for a review. It's been a bit. I've been doing Android unboxings for the past few videos, so we're going back to the classics, which is just stare at a male profile, and I talk about said show. I know, very creative. Good job, Chris. So, today we're going to be looking at Rosario to Vampire, or Rosario cross Vampire. There's so many different ways to put it. I don't really know which one is the correct way, but I'm just going to say Rosario and Vampire. That's how I've been saying it. So, basically, this is a harem show from 2008. It shows. This show has a lot of angst to it. It's really... I don't know, it just has something about it that feels like it's very much from this era. Like, you can tell the minute you put it on. There's panty shots flying everywhere, there's the tropes in every direction, except for the fact that they're all monster girls, but I guess that could be in itself a trope, so... there's no winning in this part. When I first started this show, I originally thought, okay, this seems like it's just kind of high school DxD, but without the nuance. And... that didn't hold up. It did get more different. It got, differenter, to say that, I guess. But overall, the show did feel very basic. And I felt like it had a lot more going for it than it let on. For example, most of the show, our main protagonist, he moves to this school for monsters, which he doesn't know about until he gets there. And he runs into a vampire lady, and she's very horny for him because she just wants to suck his blood. And it's her first time, is what she keeps saying. So basically that all happens, and, diddle-daddling around because he keeps making a harem, but I like how the show constantly keeps saying, you've got a harem, you've got these girls clinging to you. You need to hurry up and make a decision because this is making everyone's lives harder. Well, it's obvious who he's going to choose because he's only, interested in one of them. Every single other one of them don't even have a chance, to be honest with you. They don't even have a smidgen of a chance of being with him because he has got his eyes so dead set on the vampire chick. And that is extremely obvious. So, it's a bit sad because the other characters do have their merits, and it does feel very unequal in that regard, but... I kind of respect the main protag for, going down the one route. He's not trying to do all of the Persona social links at once. So... overall, what I've got to say about the show is the character designs are decent. I'm not a huge fan of the main girl, the vampire. Mocha, I think that's her name. I'm forgetting the names of the characters because they're not very important, to be quite honest. You don't really care about the characters that much. They're just kind of there for the fan service. And Mocha, I don't really like her design. I think the main part I don't like about her design is the rosary. The Rosario, I don't know, Rosario. That thing, I just don't really like the look of it. It looks stupid and tacky, but I guess that's just how it is. So, that's my opinion. I don't really like that part, but other than that, she's a fine character. And honestly, I kind of prefer the... other version of her, the white-haired one, the vampire version, because that one's more fun. Overall, I would have to say my favorite character design-wise is probably the succubus, which I know is, a big shocker. Let's go down and take a look at the characters. So yeah, we've got Kuruno, or Kurumu, I don't know, there's so many different names that they call each other, and it gets very confusing after a while. But basically, I like Kurumu the most because she's, got blue hair. That's the only reason. I swear, that is the only reason. One thing I was interested about the show is that it constantly goes on the ecchi side of things. It has panty shots every scene, pretty much. It has boob jiggle physics all over the place. And they just never go that extra mile. You watch it, you think you would watch an ecchi show to watch ecchi, you'd be, this is ecchi, not lewd. That's how I put it. It's kind of teasing, but it's not going all the way like High School DxD does, where they just straight up show the tits, This one's kind of being a bit more teasing in that regard. Until eventually they just say, you know what, screw it, we're just going to show the titties anyway. And so whenever they're on screen, I'm just going to have they always been there? Am I just remembering wrong? So, yeah, basically, they do show them here and there. They're very low res, but what do you expect? It's a 2008 show, so I don't know what else you would want. And overall, it's fine in that regard. It's very ecchi. I feel like that was the main thing it was going for at the beginning, and it tried to add in a story later on, but, like, no one really cared at that point. And, yeah, other than that, there isn't that much to it, so yeah, let's talk about the animation, shall we? So the animation is alright. It goes from being really bland to being pretty good, very randomly, it seems, because it's basically a slice of life most of the time. It's basically just, oh, guy at school, and shenanigans happen. That's about it. Nothing interesting. And then there's the fight scenes. And the fight scenes are decent. Like, most of them are very stiff action and only last, like... The recurring joke of the first season was this batch that's a narrator that's, like, helping you around and trying to figure out what the hell's happening. And every time a fight ends, he says, this fight lasted only 30 seconds. And I found that just kind of annoying. It's like, okay, so I guess these fights don't mean anything. They're just comedic. But, yeah, I mean, overall, the fights were neat, if only, one hit and the person's dead. So, yeah, overall, not that great, but sometimes the animation is surprisingly good. Like, you'll have parts where the characters are moving around quite frantically, and you can actually see, like, the in-between animation, like, really fluid. So, I kind of like it when that happens. I don't really like the extremely exaggerated movement, but when the in-between frames make it look more realistic, I think that usually looks pretty good in general shows. Yeah, so overall the animation's decent. It's nothing to really write home about. It's done by Studio Gonzo, which they've done shows. The only one I'm really the only one I've really only seen is Full Metal Panic. So that one didn't have great animation either, so it's not got a lot going for it. I mean, it's got Strike Witches and, Chrono Crusade, but other than that, I mean, it's not exactly a series known for well animation. And it also did Conception, which makes a lot of sense, because that one was bad. I mean, Rosario was actually, like, fantastic compared to the Conception anime, so that's interesting. Anyway, point is, this season was pretty much just a clusterfuck, if you ask me, because it kind of has this interesting idea to it, and then they don't do anything with it. And from what I've heard, the manga is significantly different to the anime, because this is an adaptation of the manga. And the manga was a lot more serious at times, and had more story progression, apparently. I haven't read it, so I don't know. But apparently the anime is very different. Might be more ecchi. I'm not sure if it's as lewd in the manga. But yeah, overall I'd say this is quite different from what I've heard. And yeah, you can kind of tell, because you have these plot parts where it's like, oh, suddenly this drastic thing is happening, even though last episode we were just watching these two dorks take photos of girls' panties. Like, like the contrast is very jarring sometimes. Like, nothing is a lead up, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, now this is happening. And now it's done. Oh yeah, and now we're back to this. It's just not very impactful in that regard. That's where High School DxD did pretty well, because while it did have its lighthearted and ecchi moments, it pretty much had this constant looming thing of, this is a dark world, and, we've got to, look out for Issei, because if early on in the series, people could, fall on his head and he'd die, basically, so... yeah, it was kind of that looming sense of something bigger is going to happen. Whereas in this show, it's like, okay, this is it. This is the show. This is the garbage that we've got going on here. Overall, I don't enjoy this show. I do enjoy it. It's just kind of mindless fun. I watched the dub of it, and from what I've gone back and forth with, I did the sub and the dub like a couple times here and there. The dub seemed to be pretty accurate, which is more than you can say for most shows nowadays. And yeah, the dub was decent. The voice actors did their job, and I think it was good for the time period. I wouldn't say it's fantastic in today's standards, but that's because it's 2008, and to be fair, it's a very hit or miss thing. I'll have to do a video on this later on about dubs nowadays, but I think the peak of dubs was around this era because they were trying their best to make it as to the source material as they could without adding on all the LGBT and the feminism rights and all that stuff, where it's just completely unnecessary and completely redundant to the story. Whereas this show was just like, oh yeah, this is the story, this is what it is. And that's what I preferred about this time period, because they just didn't give a shit. Like, in this show, the dub actually just says, like, bitch, whore, slut. It just goes straight off with the swear words, and it's pretty funny. You'll just be sitting there watching the show, and then someone will be called a slut, and you just go, okay. I mean, it's true, but what the fuck? You don't hear many shows call, girls sluts in anime. Anyway, so that was season 1. Overall, it was decent. That's all I've got to say about it. It's not going to go on my favourites list or anything, that's for sure, but it was fun, it was a fun enough time. So, let's go on to season 2. I'm going to do both of these because I don't really want to do to drag this out into 2 different videos. And also, I got this on a DVD set, which I bought recently, and it had season 1 and 2 on it. So, it kind of makes sense. In that regard, at least. So season 2 pretty much picks up straight after season 1, and they pretty much just only add one more character to the harem, and she's not even a part of the harem, she's just a reoccurring character at best. She's the tsundere of the series, and basically she's the main girl Mocha's sister, or little sister, even though they look nothing alike, and basically this little sister just wants to see the real vampire version of Mocha because she really hates the pink-haired, suppressed version of her. And she's doing everything she can to try and, keep her as the silver one, but it just never seems to work. And that's about it. She's not threatening because, like, in the first episode, it's like, okay, she could be a threatening, piece of work because she doesn't have a suppressor on. She can basically just beat every single person in the harem, except for Mocha when she's transformed. So she doesn't want to do that very often. And yeah, as soon as you find out Mocha can one-shot her, it kind of becomes, oh, okay. Well, that was cool. It's just, there's no weight to any of the situations in the series, and I think that's the issue, because you just kind of go, oh, okay, something interesting's happening, and it's over. Like, woo. Yay, I guess. I don't know. It's just hard to get behind the series because it doesn't take itself seriously, and when it tries to, it's over in seconds, so it's kind of hard to, like, just, get invested. So, overall, the second season, it was better, if you ask me. I think it was slightly better, just because it had a bit more plot points to it, and the stories were a bit more interesting, and the fan service was much more, so overall, I think it was a bit better. The opening, it was a very strange one. As soon as the opening turned on, I thought it was an ending, because it looks very much like the endings of High School DxD with the dancing, but except it's the opening. And yeah, I don't know what it is about the opening songs for the series, but they're always just very strange. Like, the first one was just very, very early 2000s feeling, like you could tell just from the first few beats, honestly. And this one, it has a very catchy opening, like a very catchy, like, first 10 seconds, but then, like, you just don't really care and skip ahead, because, you don't really want to waste as much time on this show as it's wanting you to, right? So, that's my thoughts anyway. And yeah, other than that, it's just going to be a quick spoiler on something that happened in season 1 at the very end, so skip ahead if you don't want to get spoiled on this show, but it's not really a spoiler because it doesn't really matter in the end, because the show doesn't really seem to care all that much. So at the end of the first season, our main character is getting his ass handed to him like he always does, because he's just a human in a monster world. And so basically he's on the verge of death in this final boss battle, essentially. And Mocha basically gives him her blood, a bit of her blood, to try and save him because vampires have regeneration powers. And so, yeah, basically, he basically becomes a sort of vampire, but they never explain it properly. He's just a human with vampire blood at that point. And we had seen him with extreme speed, like he is very fast at one point in that last part of the first season. And at the last part of the second season, it comes back up. It's like, oh, okay, so he's actually still got his vampire powers, sort of. And I guess they activate when he's emotionally inclined. And for this final battle in the season 2, he's quite strong, except he would probably have been beaten by the father if he actually was trying, as Mocha would have said. And, yeah, overall, they just need to elaborate on that. That's the most interesting part. I've looked at his Mal profile on Mal, funnily enough, and it says he's got, martial arts training, he's powerful, he's a ghoul or something, according to the Mal profile, but they don't they don't explain any of that, and in fact, it isn't even talked about once. It's like, oh, okay, so you're strong, cool, anyway, panties, they just don't care. It's so hard to care about this show because they don't care. It's kind of like with what was the show? Spirit Chronicles. That's the one. Spirit Chronicles, where basically the protagonist got isekai'd into the other world, and it didn't care about the fact that he got isekai'd, so we stopped caring as well. And then it's like, oh, by the way, this happens in the final episode. And it's like, oh, okay, well now you're telling me. It's like, it might as well have just not been an isekai, because it just, nothing to that point had anything to do with being in another world. It was just, some kids in a fantasy world. They didn't have to come from Tokyo to do that. So, yeah, it's along the same lines. I always have struggles with those sorts of story, plot points. It's such a pain, because it's like, I want to care, but you're just making it so hard on me. Anyway, I've been rambling enough. This video is long enough as it is. I just wanted to talk about this one because Rosario, I feel like it needs a third season, or at least a reboot. Because, something like that happened recently with Fruits Basket, where basically, you've got your original early 2000s show, which kind of, deviated from the manga source material because I guess it wasn't done at the time. So they finished it off, or maybe, finished halfway. I don't know. I haven't seen it, I just know that people weren't happy with the ending of it. So they made a remake of it, with the new 2018 or 19 version of it. And everybody loves that thing. Everybody says this is this is the most accurate source material adaptation for Fruits Basket they've seen. And I think it's fully done now, so if they could do that with Rosario, I think that would be cool, because honestly, the series, I feel like, has a plot that's worth looking into, but the original anime did not do a good job of portraying it. That's my opinion. I'm not sure if I'm correct in that, because I haven't read the manga, but from all the stuff I've heard and read online, it seems to be the case that the manga is significantly better than the anime, because the anime just kind of took it as a slice of life. Kind of like a joke series, instead of it having the plot points of the manga, I guess. It's hard to say. Again, I haven't seen it, so that's fully on me if I got that completely wrong. Anyway, I should probably end it here, because I'm sure you've heard enough of me rambling by now. Sorry for the lack of uploads. I'm trying to do my best to upload videos weekly, but schedules keep conflicting. I have to still record some stuff with Jared. We need to record that 2 more of those High School DxD, Born and... what was it? Born and Hero? I think those are the 3rd and 4th season. How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. And we also are currently watching Akame ga Kill, because I myself have been reading the Akame ga Kill manga since about 2016. And I really have not seen the anime. I've only seen this funny, YouTube, what is it, the YouTube poop one? The one where the YouTubers just basically voice over the characters and make everything, take a piss out of it. I really explained it well there, didn't I? But anyway, Look forward to more stuff in the future. We should be making more content soon. And yeah, I'll actually be making another video relatively soon on a show that I'm currently watching with the community at Otaku Spirit called Squid Girl. So, not to be confused with Squid Game. Squid Girl was way before and better, so eat that. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Hit the like button if you liked the video, dislike it if you didn't. Leave me a comment telling me down below what you thought of Rosario, and if you think we're going to get a Season 3 or a remake, or if we're just dead in the water. Like, if this is just the end of the anime version of this series, and you have to go read the manga. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, ring the bell button if you want to know when we're uploading, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.